Okay, welcome to Bright Videos News for Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. I'm Mike Adams. Thank you for joining me today. Got a few updates for you, then a special report, and then a very interesting interview. And this interview is going to be David Morgan, a guest on Decentralized TV. And we talk about more than just gold and silver in terms of dollars and price, but rather the long trends of industrial use or temporary industrial collapse due to energy shock or energy shock waves that are happening because of the war in the Middle East, etc. But also where both gold and silver are going to be used in more things, more high tech that's coming out, assuming we can survive this war and get something returning to, some semblance of normalcy. But we'll see. Before I get to that, a couple of interesting things. Have you seen the video that came out of New York City of Mamdani and his assistant there explaining their new government subsidized grocery store, which I talked about before, and it is really funny. So as you know, Mamdani launched this grocery store concept for New York City where the city was going to subsidize the store. And the plan is to make groceries up to 30% cheaper for people. The problem is groceries are sold on margins that are far lower than 30%. So the only way to make groceries 30% cheaper is to subsidize them, which means, the city's going to have to pay for the food. Now, of course, classic economic supply and demand means that, enterprising young people are going to show up and say, sell me a pallet of bread or whatever. And, they get it at 30% off price. And then they roll their truck down the street and then they sell it to another grocery for like 10% off retail or 15% off. So they make the 15% difference. And then that store gets a 15% margin. So of course, anytime you subsidize prices and make them artificially low, you end up running out of goods. So Mamdani has a solution for this. And the solution, which is hilarious, is to make people show ID to ensure that they are actually New York City residents shopping at these stores. In other words, in New York City, you don't need an ID to vote. But you do need an ID to buy bananas. All right? Check out this video.
How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, Jeannie Pak, to add some additional details.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing, and also we manage who's buying and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that that does not happen.
Okay, so wait a minute. Did you hear that? Wait a minute. They're going to be targeting New Yorkers to make sure that only New Yorkers are able to buy this food, which means, of course, they're going to surveil the customers who are shopping there. You're going to have to show your ID, and then clearly there's going to be some limit, right? So this is the beginning of a food rationing infrastructure for New York City, which is perfectly timed for the incoming famine, And also, wasn't it Democrats who said that if you require people to show ID to vote, then that's going to disenfranchise, black people and poor people and Latino people? Because the argument is that those people can't even get IDs. There's too much trouble to go, to the county courthouse or whatever. But now they're going to have IDs to buy food. Okay. All right. Well, so much for that argument, huh? So in what weird, twisted universe does a city require an ID to buy lettuce, but no ID to vote in the election that determines the future of the country? Imagine that. Well, The answer is New York City under Mamdani. Oh, it's going to get crazier. Actually, I love the fact that they're trying this experiment because, I think it's time to have a refresher in the lesson of why communism fails. Because centrally planned economies don't work. Also, Trump is learning that lesson too, because a lot of what he's doing is like choosing winners and losers in the economy, and that's not working. Artificial suppression of oil prices. It's just like what Mamdani's doing in New York with the artificial suppression of grocery prices. Same thing, just different scale, I mean, you go out and buy gasoline and diesel right now, that's an artificially low price. That's also sending the wrong price signals, and it's going to result in a shortage, just like artificially low, bread prices are going to result in a shortage of bread. So yeah, all this is coming. But it will be entertaining. Okay, now, switching gears, another interesting update here. This has been, if you follow AI at all, the last week has been a flurry of new model releases that are just absolutely astonishing. And I put out a social post on this. I said, look, there is no AI technology bubble. AI technology continues to leapfrog ahead, major advancements on a regular basis. And this last week saw releases or announcements from Minimax H3 video generation, which I'll talk about. Qwen has announced their 3.8 Max, which is, I haven't even used it yet, but it's supposed to be amazing. Moonshot AI announced Kimi K3, which I am using daily. And then DeepSeek announced a new, and then DeepSeek with Hugging Face, and I think Unsloth was involved in this. They announced a new, I guess it was a new compression of their model. It's the 0731, which is July 31st. I think that's what they named it. And I was so excited about that I, like in one afternoon, I downloaded that and I had it running locally. So for me, that's a dream come true. I have DeepSeek version 4 Flash, which is the kind of the smaller model, but it's still a pretty good sized model. I mean, we would call it a medium sized model. It's not small. I have it running locally and it's amazing. In fact, I have it running on a Linux system because, of course, Linux is so much better than Windows. Linux, like I can launch a Linux system, I can boot it up, and it'll just run for like 3 months straight without any problems, any updates, no shutdowns, no blue screens of death, no like, we have to repair your PC, none of that garbage. So I've got DeepSeek running locally, which is super awesome, loving it. And then I also downloaded Minimax H3. Now, H3, I think the H stands for, what is it? Hailuo? That's the Chinese name. But since I think nobody in America can pronounce Hailuo, they just changed it to H, which is fine with me. So, H3 is such a good local video generation model. This is a game changer. This is what I have been waiting for. Remember last year when I made a couple of predictions about video documentaries? What did I say? I said this year in 2026, by the end of the year, we will be able to create short documentaries, like let's say 10 to 15 minutes in duration, that are very good. And we'll be able to generate them locally on our own hardware. And then my prediction is that by the end of 2027, we will be able to generate full-length documentary films, like 90 minutes or more, that will also be generated locally, and they'll be very, very good. Okay, now, when I say generated locally, of course, I have intentionally invested in quite a lot of hardware, a lot of, like, NVIDIA 6000 Pro cards and a lot of Tower workstations with really beefed up power supplies and beefed up motherboards and beefed up cooling. And I have beefed up, power stations connected to each Tower workstation. I had to buy a power station for each workstation. And that's how much power. Like Like when these things are rendering, they can sometimes pull 1600 watts, which is a lot for a workstation. That's not much for a server, by the way. It's not much for a rack mount server. But I don't really run rack mount servers. I run, as you know, I run 48 workstations, and I don't claim that all 48 are always working, because that never happens. Some number out of 48 are working at any given time. And right now I've got quite a few of them idle because they produce too much heat, and it's freaking hot in Texas, and I don't have enough cooling to handle dumping all the heat right now. So I've got like half the system turned off just because of heat. But that'll change, as the weather cools. I'll crank up more machines. It's funny that I have to do that, but hey, you got to deal with the heat one way or another, I'm sweating in an AI hot kitchen or something, like flipping burgers over a hot grill, wiping sweat off my brow, wearing a t-shirt that's just dripping with sweat. I'm like, when do I get more video renders? That's kind of what my day is like. So anyway, this Minimax H3 is so unbelievably good. It's almost as good as Seed Dance, which is a rather expensive hosted video generation system that has all kinds of intellectual property restrictions and things like, you can't use faces that we recognize, Well, this Minimax H3 is it's unbelievably good. It is a genuine breakthrough. This is a major pivot point for do-it-yourself video generation. It's really amazing. And I've only rendered 2 short videos on it, and I can already tell this is a game changer because it understands cinematic instructions. Like I can tell it from 0 seconds to 5 seconds. I want a front shot and I want the character to say this, and I can give it character reference images. Like here's what the character looks like. Here's what the desk looks like. Here's what the scene looks like. And then I can say, like, from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, I want you to do a side angle shot from the right side with a slow, like a dolly zoom or whatever they call it in Hollywood, like the dolly's moving towards the character. And then I can say from 10 seconds to 15 seconds, I want you to do like this other abstract thing or it will do different angles. It will do different scenes. I couldn't believe it. Remember the character that I rendered before? I named him Jack Harlow, and he's the mystery guy. And you saw some of his videos before. And remember Mr. Fu Koff, the Asian wisdom guy? Well, I was using Comfy UI for this, of course. Comfy UI is the software for this that you want to use. And I gave it just a front image of Jack Harlow. And then I told Minimax that I want you to do a front shot for a few seconds, and then I want you to do the side shot. But I didn't give it a reference side shot at all. I never told it what Jack looks like from the side or what the scene looks like behind him from the side. I didn't give him that at all. And I didn't even give it a finished audio file. I just gave it a voice reference file. Like, this is what Jack sounds like. And then I gave it some dialogue for Jack to say. And I said, do the front shot, do the side shot, do this other shot. And oh my God, it rendered it. It created the side shot of Jack. And it looked like Jack from the side. I'm like, I didn't even tell you what that's supposed to look like, but it did a great job. It was amazing. Now, what else is amazing about it? It was freaking fast. I couldn't believe how fast it was. Now, yeah, it was taking up like 50 gigs of RAM, I think, on the 6000 GPU, something like that. I'd have to check. But it was fast. I mean, it was only a few minutes to render 10, 15 seconds. Whereas, I've used before LTX 2.3. That was the one I was using before. And LTX it was the best until now. LTX was slower. And then there were some other engines like Hunyuan or something, I forgot the name, that were just like crazy dog slow, like 30 minutes to render 10 seconds. I've tried those in the past. I'm like, no, I can't. No, I'm not going to wait 30 minutes for 10 seconds of video that's also dumping heat for 30 minutes. That's crazy. So Minimax H3 is a game changer, and I've also I watched a video of it doing 97 animation styles. It can do every animation style. If you can describe it like, paper mache animal art or whatever, or, Japanese anime, or I don't know, what are all the different styles, like watercolor cartoons, or anything you can imagine, or like Lego, like little Lego characters walking around, or like Wallace and Gromit claymation style. It does that instantly. I saw it do 97 styles of animation. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like South Park style, all these styles. So of course, immediately in my brain, like all these ideas are firing off. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to sleep because I'm a communicator. I'm an educator. I've got a lot of stuff to share with you and with the world. A lot of important information because I'm recording a new course that's, it's called Genetic Survival. Well, it's really called Unbreakable Genetic Survival. And it's a critically important course. But I have all this information that I want to get out to the world. And I'm thinking, man, this Minimax H3 is the perfect engine now for me to get this information out through a variety of different animations. And since it's all rendering locally on my own hardware, can't get, refused by some web-based service. Can't get censored. No guardrails. Because I'm talking about the dangers of, spike protein. I'm talking about nuclear war. I'm talking about, depopulation agendas. The kinds of topics that would get you, refused by a lot of AI engines. And, I'm sorry, I don't have time for refusals. I got to get this stuff done. I got to get it rendered. I got to get it out. Got to share this information with the world. And so Minimax H3 just shows up at the exact right time when I'm in the middle of recording this program. And by the way, I've recorded, more than 10 hours now, and it keeps expanding a little bit. There's something kind of interesting that I encountered today that I want to share with you, actually along those lines. Now, I've been a strong advocate of chlorella and spirulina for a very long time. But in recording a chapter on those two microalgae, well, we call them microalgae. Spirulina is really more of a cyanobacterium, technically. But anyway, we'll call it algae. But I had to do a lot of extra research in order to present this new chapter on all this information. And so in the research that I did, I learned new things that I did not know. New things that are rather amazing. And of course, I'll save all the best parts for the course, but let me tell you two things that blew my mind. So one thing that's really important is, how this course is about how to protect your genetic integrity and how to repair your DNA and your chromosomes and double strand breaks and what are called like DNA lesions and things like that. How to repair that through nutrition. And also avoidance of toxins and things like that. So this course is designed to help you survive the next spike protein pandemic and the next nuclear war, the next, radiation fallout scenario, all that. And how to survive a toxic world with your genetic code intact. Well, so one of the things you have to do in order to have the building blocks for the repair mechanisms of your DNA, you have to take in nucleic acids in a dietary fashion. So you need to eat nucleic acids, in other words. And when you eat enough nucleic acids through some other mechanisms, then your repair machinery, which, some of you geneticists listening, you know what that is. It's NHEJ, it's non-homologous end joining, it's homologous recombination, or HR, it's base excision repair, BER, it's NER, nucleotide repair. There's a bunch of mechanisms, okay? Those are the major ones I just mentioned. Well, you have to have nucleic acids. Otherwise, your body can't do the repairs. You have to have other things too. You have to have cofactors for enzymes, enzymes like polymerase or ligase and so on. And those cofactors are often minerals, like zinc is key, and magnesium. But I'll tell you more about that in the course. But anyway, it turns out that there is no food on Earth that has a higher percentage of nucleic acids than chlorella. Period. The closest one that I've found is sardines. Sardines are about 1.5% nucleic acids, dry weight. Chlorella is 3 to 5% nucleic acids. It's like, wow. And also, chlorella, you can put it in a smoothie and it's not crazy, where I'm not putting fish in a smoothie. I'm not making a sardine smoothie. I'm sorry. No. Not doing that. I don't care how much nucleic acid is in the fish. Not making a fish smoothie, okay? But chlorella smoothie, yeah, I can handle that. No problem. It's a little bit green. It's a slightly kind of a little bit of a seaweed kind of taste, but totally you can handle it, you know? And anyway, one of the reasons that chlorella has such a high percentage of nucleic acid is because it has a special nucleus that's unique to chlorella, and inside that nucleus is something called chlorella growth factor, CGF. And this is, it's an ancient nutritional technology for rapid replication and DNA repair. It's been around for, well, scientists would say many, many millions of years. Not just millions, but hundreds of millions of years, maybe even a couple of billion. I don't know, depends on what timeline you're looking at. But it's been around like since way before the dinosaurs, okay? It's been around a long time. And this stuff is extraordinary, and your body knows how to use it. It gives your body the building blocks to repair DNA. So number one, I was talking to my staff today and I said, you know what? How much chlorella do we have coming in, and you know, how much are we making? Because I think you better make more, because when this course comes out and people find out about how powerful chlorella is for DNA protection, like, people are going to stockpile this, you know, people are going to really want more chlorella. And they said, okay, you know, we'll increase the chlorella inputs here, but it's going to take time. There's a long supply chain right now. And then they asked me, like, what happened with the 5G defense product? So let me tell you about this failed product that we released, and why something I just found out about spirulina, why it allows your body to make the product that we had packaged and we were selling, but it failed. Now, let me back up. So you probably know that exposure to 5G and other forms of EMF, you know, electropollution, will cause the production of radical oxidation molecules in your blood. These are way worse than the typical ROS, which is reactive oxygen species. These are called peroxynitrite. And peroxynitrite, it savages your DNA. I mean, it causes single strand breaks, which can then replicate into double strand breaks. That is, both strands, both sides of your chromosomes are ripped apart and severed. And then your body has to guess, like, what goes there? What base pairs are missing, you know? And sometimes that never gets answered and that cell is gone, you know? That happens a lot, actually. So you don't want peroxynitrite hanging around in your body at all. It's like the worst. It's the worst oxidizing molecule that you can have in your blood. Again, it's created in your blood when you're exposed to 5G or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or whatever, or high voltage power lines, things like that. Well, so I had formulated this product a couple years ago that I called 5G Defense, and it contained a really rare and really powerful enzyme called superoxide dismutase, or SOD for short. Now, don't rush out and try to buy this, because we don't even have it anymore, because nobody understood what this was. So it didn't actually sell hardly at all. I mean, it was an amazing product, because this molecule, SOD, you can only get it from melons, and it's found in melons in such small trace amounts that the price of this SOD, superoxide dismutase, the price of this is like thousands of dollars per kilo. So it doesn't take very much to do the job, but because it's so expensive, the cost to the end user seems really high, even though it's just a really expensive molecule. Nothing we can do about that. So we had packaged it in these small canisters, and a few people bought it. And if you did, that's great. You're going to realize how valuable it is. But there's something else I want to tell you about this. Anyway, that product did not succeed because I think people didn't grasp the role of SOD in DNA repair, because that hasn't been on everybody's radar yet. Well, check this out. So as part of my research, when talking about spirulina in addition to chlorella, I found out that the number one component of spirulina, which is a blue-green pigment called phycocyanin, which is about 20% of the dry weight of spirulina, by the way. Now, phycocyanin is one of my favorite molecules of all time. I've talked about it for 20 years. It's an amazing molecule. It's very therapeutic in many, many ways. It also fluoresces at certain wavelengths. I mean, this is a super potent pigment, and it's got all kinds of uses in the human body. Well, what I did not know until today is that when you consume spirulina and you're taking in phycocyanin, which if you take enough of it, it'll turn your poop green, by the way. That's how you know. That's how you know you have enough. But the other thing it does in your body that's far more serious is that it allows your body to produce superoxide dismutase, SOD, as well as glutathione enzymes as well. So what's actually happening in your body when you take in phycocyanin from spirulina is that it turns your body into a super powerful antioxidant factory where your cells start churning out these antioxidants that nullify peroxynitrite. And these are antioxidants that cost thousands of dollars per kilo, but your cells are making them for free if you take in phycocyanin. Right? So that's amazing. It means that when you eat spirulina and you have the phycocyanin, it neutralizes the peroxynitrite, which is formed when you're exposed to 5G. So knowing this now, what I should be doing is of course, I'm putting this in the course, and I'm going to be sharing this and explaining this with infographics and everything. You'll hear this again from me. But if I were to reformulate like a 5G defense product now, I would make sure that it had a lot of spirulina in it. And I would rely on your body to generate the SOD instead of getting SOD and buying it extracted from, cantaloupe, because there it's very, very expensive. So the lesson in this is that sometimes with the right nutrients, your body can make the nutrients that are otherwise crazy expensive. And that makes spirulina dirt cheap compared to the value of the antioxidants that it creates in your body. How cool is that, huh? Plus, it has all these other benefits that we haven't even gotten into, and it's got gamma linolenic acid in it, which is a very special kind of GLA, special kind of omega-6, but not the kind that you find in seed oils. It's the opposite. It's like the healthy omega-6 that has all kinds of amazing benefits in your body. So I'm giving you this heads up here to tell you what's coming in the next few weeks. I'm going to have entire chapters dedicated to this, chlorella and spirulina and other nutrients, targeted specific nutrients that support your body's DNA protection and DNA repair mechanisms. And also they counteract some of the reactive oxygen species that cause DNA lesions, or the chemicals that cause DNA damage, all kinds of damage like translocations or mismatches, or like thymine dimers and things like that can happen in your DNA. Well, we know how to fix that. We know how to prevent that. I mean, actually, your body knows how to fix that, okay? But it has to have the tools, that comes down to the right nutrients, the right phytochemicals, the right minerals. I already mentioned zinc. the right, coenzyme factors, all kinds of things that you are about to learn that will make your DNA what I call unbreakable. And I don't really mean it's unbreakable. And what I mean is your body will instantly repair it if it does break. So in essence, it's unbreakable. It's like Wolverine, from the X-Men. Every time he gets damaged, his body just heals itself, in seconds. You can do that with your DNA. Your body already knows how to do it. There are mechanisms that you were born with. They're called BER, NER, HR, NHEJ, etc. Those are the names. This is all documented in all the biochemistry science papers, the genetics papers, everything. This is all published stuff. But most people don't know this, and so they run around with all this genetic damage, and then they get exposed to ionizing radiation and more damage, and then they get exposed to fragrance chemicals from their laundry detergent, more DNA damage. They get exposed to, 5G, more DNA damage, and they're eating junk foods and garbage, and then they take the mRNA jabs, which hijacks their cells and starts churning out spike protein. And the spike protein, it turns out, suppresses those repair mechanisms by 85 to 90%, according to published science papers. That's when people get turbo cancer and die following the vaccine. And the long-term saturation of spike protein, that has a name. That's called long COVID. It's not long COVID. It's stay behind spike protein is what that is. Well, anyway, I've got all the answers for you on this. I'm going to put this course out for free. It's still going to be a few weeks because I'm going to package it up with amazing graphics and amazing, I'll probably have some AI generated video to go along with it. Some explanatory videos and diagrams and stuff. Now that I have Minimax, I can't wait to see what it can do. I'll have all this information for you. You'll love it. And it could literally save your life, especially if there's a nuclear war or any kind of nuclear detonation. And presenting this information taught me that I don't have to be afraid of nuclear fallout. I know how to deal with it. I know how to protect my DNA, even if there's cesium-137 or plutonium or strontium-90 falling out of the sky. I know how to protect myself. Even iodine-131. I know how to protect myself. I know what works. Did you know that spirulina was used in Ukraine to treat the children and adults who were exposed to the intense radiation of Chernobyl? And that the children who were fed spirulina had far better outcomes. They were able to eliminate the radioisotopes far more quickly, and their cells were protected far better than anybody else. Did you know that? It was all studied by the, Ukrainians, we would call them today, but at the time, of course, they were, Soviet Union, 1986. If you had spirulina, you did much better. And they didn't even know about chlorella in 1986. They didn't know about that. Imagine if they knew then what we know now. And there are other things as well. I mean, my goodness, this is extremely valuable life-saving information for humanity. So I'll bring you more details on that when we launch it. Until then, if you want to get ahead of the launch of this program, if you want chlorella and spirulina, we have different forms available right now at healthrangerstore.com. And we've got powders, we've got tablets, we've got combination powders like a Greens Plus Superfood that's got both of them. We've got pouches and the number 10 cans, etc. What is it? Capsules, tablets, and powder. Yeah, we have all three, I believe. So we're going to try to increase the stock, the inventory of all those products, but there's only so much in the supply chain. Honestly, supply chains are kind of wrecked right now. But I'll do my best to bring you as many solutions as I can. And also, there's a whole chapter in this course that's dedicated to DNA repair foods and superfoods that you can grow at home. So it's not just about buy this from us. It's hard to grow chlorella, obviously. So yeah, you normally would buy that from somebody. But there are other foods that you can grow yourself. And one of those I've mentioned 100 times is broccoli sprouts because they produce sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is also one of the key nutrients for genetic defense. It's one of the indirect defenders of your genetic code. So sulforaphane is naturally created in broccoli sprouts. You can buy, sprouting seeds, and you can use a mason jar, and you just put some cheesecloth over the top, put a rubber band around it, and add some water, rinse it, and drain the water like 3 times a day. That's all you have to do. You don't even need sunlight. You don't need soil. Nothing but water, okay? And then within a few days, you're going to have broccoli sprouts. You eat those, and kaboom, you've got sulforaphane, powerful medicine, circulating in your blood, doing amazing things like protecting your neurology, anti-cancer, anti-inflammation, supporting healthy metabolism, and helping to defend your chromosomes against DNA lesions. So that's something that you can do right now. And it costs almost nothing, almost freaking nothing. Sorry. I mean, I'm just saying, if it's almost free, why not do it? Why not do it? Now, yeah, you can buy from our store, you can buy, I don't know, it's like different cruciferous powders and things like that. But I encourage you to grow them. Grow what you can, and then just buy what you can't grow. That's my advice. Grow what you can. You need the skill. You need to learn how to do it. Some day may be coming. There is no UPS. There is no diesel. There's no, like, maybe the credit cards don't work or something. Who knows? You need to be as self-reliant as possible. So grow what you can, sprout what you can, dry what you can, store what you can. Learn how to do it locally as best you can. Anyway, we'll get to all that coming up. You're going to love it, and I'm going to love sharing it with you. All right, so with that said, enjoy the rest of today's show. I've got a special report and then the interview that I mentioned, and of course, we'll have more for you tomorrow. And we'll be looking forward to Mamdani's New York City grocery store, where the food is cheap and ID is required to buy bananas. Can you imagine? No soup for you. No ID, no soup for you. Yeah, that's what they should have. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast. Well, it sure looks like there's going to be a military draft in the USA. And that, of course, means the powers that be are trying to find a new way to get rid of a lot of young men in particular. War is always used to, well, it's a cover story for currency collapse, asset confiscation, and also depopulation in order to keep the ruling power in charge. So they start wars on purpose, which is what NATO has been doing, provoking Russia, using Ukraine as a proxy state, bombing Iran, providing weapons to Israel to attack its neighbors, etc. This is all deliberate. It's all intended to start wars and to grow those wars and continue those wars, and then escalate them to the point where they become world wars, just one giant global war where we have to have an emergency draft and, we have to send millions of young men to die. And the same thing's happening in Europe, of course, where they want to send millions of young men to die, but pretty much only the native European young men, while they replace them with the migrants from Africa and Middle Eastern nations, etc. So it's part of the Great Replacement in Western Europe, and it's also part of the Great Replacement in the United States. And if possible, if they can get away with it, Trump will suspend elections. I mean, we'll see. Maybe we'll have midterm elections this year. Maybe not, because there's a lot that can happen between now and then, a lot of false flags, a lot of national emergencies. And you may recognize that Zelensky has been kept in power for 4+ years in Ukraine, despite the fact that he's no longer elected. His term expired years ago. Nobody elected him to this current term. He just became a military dictator. That's a model that Trump probably wants to follow in the U.S. No elections, no Bill of Rights, no Constitution, no free speech. In fact, I believe that all these flock cameras and Axon cameras are being set up for precisely this purpose. They're being set up to enforce lockdowns and also to find and arrest people, find them as they drive along the roads. But it's the lockdowns that are really coming, and those are going to be devastating, of course. And we might ultimately refer to them as energy lockdowns, let's say. But there'll be some other excuse given for it, some blame cast on either Iran or Russia or China, almost certainly. Some kind of false flag, finger pointing, and then we have to suffer lockdowns as a result. And anybody who opposes those lockdowns will be labeled a traitor or a communist. They'll have a visit from the Gestapo or they'll be dragged away into isolation camps. They might roll out another pandemic hoax along with it so they have a reason to take people away and put them in basically death camps for, isolation, for public health. Yeah, all that's probably coming. And then at that point, you'll only be able to travel with government permission. It's way beyond needing a driver's license, which is already government permission, but you'll need a specific license to be on the roads at certain hours or to travel within a certain radius of your home or place of business, etc. Of course, they tested all this with COVID lockdowns, and they found that people went right along with it. Everybody complied. Almost everybody. And law enforcement complied, and city leaders, county leaders, they all complied, even though that was all based on total nonsense. But it worked. So they ran that pilot program, and now they know they can do it again. All they have to do is have a sufficient emergency that they can invoke, and then it's a done deal. So yeah, probably all of that's coming. And then on top of that, there'll be a currency collapse so that they force you into a CBDC, government-controlled currency that also surveils all your activities and limits your activities and controls what you're allowed to do. And at that point, you will live as a complete slave under a police state system. And you'll wonder what happened to your freedom. Well, your freedom's already mostly gone. You're already living in a partial police state right now. Flock cameras are everywhere, proliferating like crazy. Hundreds of thousands of them already installed across America, and more coming. The government already monitors your mobile phone, your texts, your calls, your search engine queries, everything, all your social media, everything that you do on your computer through Google, because you're probably logged in, it reads all your Gmail, all your Facebook, all that stuff. It's all scanned. It's all illegally surveilled. And they can build a profile of you with all that information. Oh, your credit card transactions, I forgot to mention, and all your banking transactions. So I always laugh when people say, oh, you can't go to China because China is not free. What are you talking about? Have you looked at the level of enslavement you're living under in the United States lately? Because it's the dystopian nightmare future that you were warning about. It's already here. So, keep that in mind. There are things you can do. Of course, you can run de-Googled phones for now, but the FCC is trying to push for total identity linkage to every phone. So no phone will function unless it's linked to a specific person's ID. Imagine that. So that would end all burner phones or all anonymous phones. And that's what the FCC wants, because again, they need the lockdowns because they're going to have a draft. They're going to start a war. And you know how in Ukraine, how they grab young men off the streets, or they grab them at dances or restaurants or bars or parties or whatever, and they throw them onto the front lines to die in war. That's coming to the United States. That's exactly what will happen in the U.S. They will kidnap young men from wherever they can find them, throw them into the military system, send them off to die in a war, probably with China. And that's the point. The war is the meat grinder. It's designed to achieve depopulation and to concentrate control in the hands of the few, and to eliminate any competition, any possible uprising, popular uprising among the people, or new political parties, or any new voices or personalities that have integrity that can't be compromised. This whole system is designed to eliminate that and put everybody under the thumb of control or exterminate them. Remember, the big goal is, of course, depopulation. So this is all part of that. And that's why the war continues, by the way. That's why Trump pretends to be supporting peace, but of course he violates everything he signs. He has violated the MOU in 20 different ways. It's all by design. Trump doesn't want peace. Trump is following globalist orders for mass human extermination. Why do you think he pushed the COVID jab, huh? He still celebrates that. A depopulation bioweapon that Trump released, and he celebrates it. He thinks it was a huge win. Yeah, it was a win for the globalists who are working on depopulation. So have no illusions. Trump works for the globalists. He's going to bring America into a deeper global war, and the result will be mass extermination of young men on purpose. Yeah, sorry to bring you such dark news, but that's just the reality of where we are. So stay informed. You can follow my videos at brightvideos.com. Get ready for what's coming. Make sure that you have everything that you need in order to survive and thrive through all of this. So, visit the Satellite Phone Store, for example. They've got a lot of good gear, including satellite phones. They are our sponsor, sat123.com. So check them out. And then also on top of that, visit naturalnews.com. And thank you for listening. I'm Mike Adams. Take care. All this stuff created by men with pictures of men's stupid faces on these men who lied to their people. And they said this was money. It was never money. It's all collapse. I'm a trillionaire in Zimbabwe. That never lasts. It's not real, is it?
That lesson is a great lesson that will be learned again.
Yeah.
Probably in my lifetime, although I'm getting up there in age. But this is something that goes a few generations and then the lesson is learned again. Mm-hmm. And it seems as time goes on, humans are, present and don't think about the past, don't really learn history. And when that lesson happens again, it carries on for a couple of generations. Everyone will know the difference between currency and money at some point. And I think we're getting very close to that now.
Decentralize, got to realize, don't decarbonize. Decentralize, decentralize. Decentralize, decentralize.
Welcome to today's episode of Decentralized TV. I'm Mike Adams, joined by my co-host, Todd Pittner. Welcome, Todd. How you doing today?
Great seeing you. Excited to talk a little bit about self-custody today.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be great because we have a great guest lined up for everybody today. One of my favorite people to interview. It's David Morgan, the silver guru, and his website is themorganreport.com. And he joins us now to talk about decentralized asset protection and the role of gold and silver, a little bit of what's happening also industrially because of the war, supply chains, things like that. We'll get into all that. Welcome, David. It's awesome to have you on today.
Well, Mike, thank you. And good to see you, Todd.
Nice seeing you.
Now, David, I promise you, we're not going to hit you with the question that everybody else asks you when you're on their shows, because you do a lot of shows. And it's pretty much like, David, tell me where silver is going price-wise, right? So that's not the focus here. We want to focus instead at first about the changes in the industrial demand for silver, both positive and negative. And on the positive side, technology, solar panels, new battery technology. On the negative side, the loss of energy because of the war with Iran, which is causing lower demand for industrial inputs. So how would you describe those dynamics to our audience, and which one is going to win out eventually?
Well, if we take a long look and you look at 25 years ago, roughly year 2000, the amount of technical uses for silver is 35% of the total market. And today, 2025, 2026, there's 60% of the market. What's fascinating about those numbers is not only have we seen a 35 to 60% use of industrial use, but it's in the context that 25 years ago, the amount of silver mined was 550 million ounces per year. And it was 35% of that number. Today, it's 60% of 850 million ounces.
Wow.
So as a quick thought experiment, Mike, if you just said this for thinking purposes, if all we mined was a steady 550 million ounces today, which I haven't, it's increased 300 million, as I stated. But if it was the 550, that 60% would represent just about the total silver output. So that shows you how much silver is used in industry today. The question you asked is, what's the trend? The trend continues up, although there could be a leveling off or perhaps even a decrease due to copper usage in solar panels. I think the amount of solar panel industry in China has leveled off for a while, perhaps even decreased on a per unit basis because of the copper input. But on the long-term trend with AI, robotics, more electronics, more places on the planet that will have electricity that don't now, I think the overall trend is still higher.
You mentioned something really critical there. I just want you to explain it more, if you would, please. The copper substitution for silver in solar panels. And yes, I've seen some of that is beginning to happen. That has not yet swept across the entire solar industry by any means. Maybe it will at some point. But copper, it's a great conductor, but it doesn't match all the amazing properties of silver. So there are compromises with that. Wouldn't you say that the very best solar panels that need to have the maximum energy density per square meter of coverage are still going to have to use silver, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. And I think you're going to see something like a hybrid where you might see copper with silver coating on it or that type of thing. Still in the experimental phase. In fact, I'm doing a mastermind later this month, next month, with someone that's pretty versed in that and comes from China. So I'm getting it pretty much from the horse's mouth, excuse the metaphor. But the real proof in the pudding is not only the conductivity, it's silver superior, but the longevity. Mm-hmm. I mean, if let's say you had a copper hybrid and it matched the output, but would it match the same output 5 years down the road? And that's the real key. And that will actually have to be tested in the field. I don't think anyone is going to wait 5 years as a test case to see what the drop off is, Mike. So I think we'll see them deployed probably in areas that don't need the reliability that you might need in, let's say, a mil spec, a military application, but maybe in a industrial park type of environment where you had a backup power. I think they'll be put to use first there. At least that's how I would recommend the usage of the new quote-unquote copper-based solar panel.
Well, a quick follow-up there, and then Todd's got a lot of great questions for you too. But I'm buying solar panels right now because I'm scaling up some solar installations, some of it for demonstrations. And the warranties that I'm seeing are 20 to 25 years. So what you just said is really key. If I don't know that my solar panels can last at least 20 years and maintain, 90% of output, I don't want to go through the trouble of hiring the labor to do the installation. It's not the solar panel that's the cost, because the panels are cheap. It's the cost of the labor and the rewiring and hauling in and out and getting guys who are willing to work in the sunlight, in the heat. That's the cost, right? So I don't want to swap out panels every 5 or 10 years. No way.
And that's a guess on my part, but you have a great business head, and I feel I have a pretty good business sense as well. The sunk cost is not the one you're going to worry about. It's the variable cost that you just outlined. So, you have to put all these things into perspective. Sometimes people focus only on the product or the sunk cost, what it costs to produce it, what is the profit margin, but they don't look at the other costs, which, as you said, just like a house or an automobile. I mean, there are maintenance costs to both those items. So,
right.
That has to be factored in your thinking if you're thinking long-term or big picture.
All right. Well, Todd, you have solar panels. on
I
your
do have
roof.
solar panels. Yeah, ones that aren't working very well.
The ones that aren't working, maybe they're made with copper.
They may be. I don't know, but I hope we can find out Saturday, because a $500 electrical bill when you have solar panels is not okay. Is not. Hey, David, can the market continue supplying cheap silver to industry if investors start demanding honest price discovery?
Well, that's kind of the key question that's plagued me from the time I started. First, the initial report was called Silver Investor, and I looked at all the resources: lithium, rare earths, cobalt, copper, you name it. So I changed the name to the Morgan Report because I cover more than silver, but silver is still my favorite. And the answer's most likely, we all know market conditions, and eventually the market wins. The free market wins in the long run. However, when you look at silver, as much as I have, first of all, there's the Silver Users Association. It's pretty much disbanded, or if they're not here, they're underground. I don't think they really are a unit anymore. But at one time, the Silver Users Association were all the great users. Kodak, which is photography, no longer pertinent to the silver market, but at one time key to the silver market was photography, Kodak being the lead. And then you had Dow Chemical, DuPont, many silver users, and their main club was to make sure that they could get silver at, let's say, the lowest possible price, cost of production more or less, so that the margins on their product, film, silverware, all kinds of chemical processes, etc., were maintained at the highest margins possible. Now, again, that's dropped off. But that kind of idea by the industrial side, which, as we just said, is more meaningful now than ever before, is going to have some sway. There is some definite industrial, I won't say lobbying, but pressure to make sure that silver remains a quote-unquote industrial metal only. However, we all know, again, that the free market will win out in the longer term, and the monetary purposes of silver cannot be ignored. They are by the main banking institutions. There's no central bank that has thought of silver as a monetary asset since the early 1900s. However, that's not true of the public at large in any jurisdiction. Asia, Australia, North America, South America. In all those jurisdictions, a portion of the population knows that silver has all the qualities of gold as a monetary asset outside of the system, but it also has enduring properties that are required with no substitutions / copper in those applications, and that demand continues to grow.
David, why are central banks accumulating gold rather than silver?
It's the per unit. It's the amount of space taken per unit value. If for silver to be viable as money again, and I believe it could be, you're going to have to get a monetary ratio minimum, which means you're going to have to get in that 15, 16 to 1 relationship, gold to silver ratio, for silver to have enough unit value to compete with gold and actually be viable as a monetary asset. Right now, if you paid the minimum wage of, let's say, 25 cents an hour to the U.S. population, I think you run out of all silver like 2 days. So that shows you that the price is wrong if you're going to use it as money.
Right.
Well, I noticed that, by the way, in the current war, every time a refinery goes up in flames in the Middle East, oil prices drop. So I'm thinking, if the same were true with silver, then the way to make silver affordable for industry is the military should just start bombing silver mines, and then it would just get so cheap. Obviously that's satire because it's insane. This is the opposite of supply-demand economics of what we're witnessing with energy. But it kind of leads to a serious and complex question I have for you. Something happening here in Texas. So I'm in Central Texas. Tesla is right down the road from my studio. And Elon Musk, he just had his companies buy the entire output of a solar farm that's being built. I think it's near Houston. A solar farm that'll be completed in 2027, and he'll have all the output from, I don't know how much output is it. Maybe it's a gigawatt, who knows. But because of the war in the Middle East, there are energy supply chain problems with gas, which translates into gas turbines, energy for data centers or industry, et cetera. There's a built-in common sense alternative to build solar farms, which is what Elon Musk is doing, so that he can power his SpaceX company, which is going to be building satellites that use silver. So not only does he need silver in the solar farm to create the energy to power the company that's going to build things that also use silver. So then there's a double silver demand increase there. But if he was relying just on fossil fuels, he might be out of luck and not be able to run industry at the same level, and then there would be less silver demand. So what do you make of this really interesting dynamic that as industry and manufacturers are shifting more to solar, it's actually giving them more options to stay in business and use more silver?
Well, I agree. And of course, it's kind of a case-by-case basis, Mike, as you outlined, really. I mean, for example, some of these smaller mines, it could be a large mine, but even these, let's say medium to smaller mines, I mean, it takes them so long to get the infrastructure from the power grid to the location, and the costs are astronomical, and the time factor is huge, that they're much better off by putting up solar as a backup to the diesel that they already have. And it goes up quickly, and on a cost basis, it's competitive, especially when it's not just the sunk cost. What's it take in labor? What do I have to pay the utility company to bring that power line over to this location? So that's just one example, mining being, one of my specialties. But I do think that it's not viable in all cases. I want to make that clear. The other part is, what can you do with it without batteries? And that's a silver's solution. I mean, lithium's, of course, the key right now. I think that's going to be changing over the next few years. And then you factor in what else is Elon going to be using more and more of, and that's robotics. So everything that he touches pretty much is high tech, and that means silver.
That brings me to a question. Artificial intelligence, it may be digital, but apparently even the robots know better than to trust paper silver, David. Could artificial intelligence become the unexpected force that finally reveals silver's strategic value? Not because AI wants silver, but because every physical machine supporting AI does.
I think that could be a tipping point. I think robotics could be later on. It could be further military use. I mean, the amount of silver that's required for military support and communications, logistics, and weaponry is significant, and it's obviously looks like it's going to be increasing at least for a while. So there's, I think, several vectors. But if I was going to choose one, Todd, I think you hit the number one. I think that's probably the key one at this point in time.
Okay, if you don't mind me jumping in, let me shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, please.
David, I've never considered myself to be a silver investor. I've only considered myself to be a silver stacker. And I'd like you to talk about the difference, because I know that your audience consists of both categories of people, but an investor is somebody who plans to sell it and make a profit. Now, Todd, you and I are like, I'm never selling the gold, the silver. I mean, maybe one day I might trade some metal for a ranch or an excavator, or shares of a business or something locally. I mean, I can see swapping metals for big purchases, but I never, ever plan to trade metals for dollars.
Right.
So, and also, David, I never buy on leverage. Never, never, never. I don't play in paper markets. I don't play in options. That's a way to get destroyed, in my opinion, because, well, you can speak to that. You're the expert. Go ahead. Tell us what you think about what I just said.
Well, I agree. I mean, first of all, I learned the lesson about leverage the hard way. As well, consider a youngster now, almost wouldn't, because I was a young adult. I was in my mid-20s. I won't go into the whole story, but it was rather painful, and I never forgot that lesson. I've taught from the beginning that silver is money as much as gold, even though it's not perceived that way by the bankers. And that if you're going to save, you should save in real money, not in, bank account. And that's proven to be true, and you could say false over certain periods of time. But in the long run, it's worked, and it always has, because the way a debt-based monetary system is structured, the debt has to continually increase because the interest to pay off the debt is never in existence the time that the new quote-unquote currency is created, which means that the interest to pay it off has to be created sometime in the future, which means you have a compounding and eventually an exponential component to the money supply. Anything that goes exponential will lead to eventually a hyperinflationary depression. So that's where we are right now, Mike. So coming back, if you saved just by dollar cost averaging, let's say you were able to save, I don't know, make up a number, $100 per month when you started in the workforce, and as you're matured, you bought a second, a bigger home or whatever, but you're able to increase your savings perhaps at the same time. I know this is not the case for most Americans today, but you just saved in real money. If you'd done that, you would see that the dollar cost averaging program, which is in the 10 Rules of Silver Investing that I published as a public service for everyone years ago, is a great way to maintain your purchasing power and actually exceed it. When I started driving, a gallon of gas was roughly 25 cents the gallon.
Wow.
Today, 25-cent silver 90% coin is worth about $10. So in most states, I think fuel's around $5 or less, except California. So you could actually buy 2 gallons of gas for the same 90% silver quarter today. So has it maintained its purchasing power? Well, obviously in terms of gasoline it has. But if you go across the board in a hamburger index, clothing index, and almost everything that we actually purchase, yes, it has. And this is something that will maintain your wealth, not necessarily make you wealthy. But I'm guilty, as charged, that I said at certain times silver can make you wealthy, not just preserve your wealth. And we've seen that where silver really shoots off like it did from November 1979 into January of 1980. And we saw something very similar last year in October, November, December 2025 into January 2026. I mean, if you were on leverage then, I don't suggest it, but if you were and you were smart enough to get out into strength, I'm sure some people did, and that was probably a monumental change for them individually.
Yeah, but if they didn't get out, they got destroyed.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not advocating it, Mike. I'm just letting you know that there's always people that are going to go to their own drummer. Most lose, like 90-something%, but there was that 2 or 3 that said, oh my goodness, I did it and I was smart enough. The problem with most futures traders, especially beginners, is they don't know when to get out. They get into the FOMO and they know that it's not going just to 100, it's going to 200. And they see it hit that 120 and they don't realize the next day it's going to go down to 65 and they get margin called and they're out and they lost everything.
Well, let's talk about physical silver versus the paper price. I've been thinking about leverage, Mike. If 200 people own claims on the same silver bar, that is not fractional reserve banking. That is a precious metals timeshare, sports fans. David, is manipulation still the dominant story, or has physical scarcity become powerful enough to overwhelm it, in your view?
Well, it certainly did in 2025 and into January 2026. I mean, I'm on record, along with many others in my peer group, that we were really seeing true price discovery for that roughly 4-month period. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Once we saw a leveraged position from a Chinese entity or person, the paper paradigm took over. And let's say the entities that work in that regime and are very, very good at it, have very strong algorithms and some pretty smart quants, were able to take advantage of the unexpected 70% move in 1 month in the silver market. And they played it basically perfectly. So now we are back in the paper paradigm. But from a long-term perspective, all manipulations end. And I've been on record from the get-go that you cannot manipulate the long-term trend. And you cannot. What you can do is you can definitely manipulate, if you like that word, or you can coerce or whatever the market in short durations. And short durations are not only these overnight sales where you're putting up, half of the annual mining supply in, 2 trades, which obviously that much quote unquote silver, it's on paper, but it's still counted as silver in that market. will certainly destroy the price. So it's obvious that that's a manipulation of the market in that time frame. It can't be anything else but that. Yet you will see where those court cases that have come to fruition have had merit, have always had merit. At certain times, the court said, well, nothing to see here. And other times, the court says, yes, we agree. It's called spoofing, and we're going to put a penalty on the banking or the traders that perform such actions.
Can a futures market accurately price silver when most contracts are never intended to result in delivery?
No, but it's across the board. I want to be fair. It's true in wheat, it's true in gasoline, it's true in hog bellies or soybean oil. They're all maintained on a super leveraged position that actually suppresses the price of almost all commodities. If all commodities were on a cash and carry basis, and I make that statement because both the milk market and the egg market used to be in the futures contracts. Neither are, yet we all are familiar with eggs and milk. So you could be in a cash basis on any commodity. It's a lot tougher because a commodity itself needs the protection of how the futures markets were intended. And that is for the farmer or the producer to be able to hedge their position and not take a lot of risk. Let the speculators take the other side of the trade so the farmer's guaranteed a profit in his wheat field, in his corn field, in rye or whatever the case may be. And I am for that. I think it does serve a purpose. The problem is that the mathematics of the futures market has gotten so extreme that the math itself can control the price rather than the product that underlies it.
Well, what do you make, David, of China banning paper bets by retail investors? I know you've been tracking that news, a lot of changes with the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the SGE, but I think that kicked in July 24th or sometime around then. Is China moving toward trying to achieve actual non-paper price discovery of commodities like gold and silver? And if so, why? Wouldn't China actually benefit from artificially low manipulated silver pricing because they buy so much for their industry?
Yeah, there's two questions there. I'm glad you brought it up because, I am a bit discouraged, I'll say, with some of the rhetoric that goes around the silver market, especially gold somewhat, but not as much as silver. I mean, many are saying, that there's no paper trading in China anymore in silver. It's ridiculous. It's not at all what happened. It's retail only.
Yeah, retail only. Exactly.
Only retail. So it's a very small segment of the market. And I think it's a good thing, personally. Now, this is my personal opinion. But I would say because a lot of retail gets hurt in the futures markets, and also they've been hurt in the retail market in China. I won't go there too long, Mike, but I put up something on my X about all of these people that were buying silver, especially gold as well, but primarily silver in China that got burned because they were putting up good money to secure their silver. And then the entity that was supposed to deliver 2 weeks later into the market weren't able to do so because they were had by the entities that they bought from. So I digress to come back. So I think that you could still hedge, you could still be an industrial user, you could be a producer, you could be a mine, you could be a manufacturer and still hedge your position in the Chinese market. So I think that's still a good thing because hedging is important for those entities.
But a follow-up question, even though I said that China may benefit from artificially low prices of silver, eventually, doesn't China want gold in particular to experience full price discovery if they plan to partially back a settlement system with gold, which it seems to be they're moving in that direction? And I'm not talking about, they're not trying to replace the whole dollar as the global trading currency, but rather have a BRICS-like settlement system partially backed by gold. And if that were to happen, wouldn't they benefit from gold being 8,000 an ounce?
Yeah, I'm exactly with you, Mike. I mean, gold really has no upper limit, and the banks are all for it. So as I said earlier, with silver being treated, I actually did a lecture years ago, what if silver were treated like gold? Which really asked the question, what if silver is treated as money again? Where would it be then? The point is valid, as you say. Gold really doesn't have an upper limit. I mean, it's going to absolutely at some point in time reflect the amount of debasement of the US dollar. And if that were done on a monetary basis with base money, or what the Austrian school calls the true money supply, it'd be around $20,000 per ounce just to make it equal to the amount of currency in circulation worldwide.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big number. Now, silver doesn't enjoy that because the banks don't consider it to be money. But that doesn't mean that the market won't. And it doesn't have to be everyone that buys silver. 60% of the market's bought by entities that use it for industrial reasons. So now where's the other 40%? Well, maybe half of that is between silverware and jewelry, where the remaining is for monetary purposes. But that doesn't rule it out, because all markets move at the margin. And the margin is preservation of wealth, price appreciation, non-counterparty risk. I mean, all the attributes that gold has, silver has, and actually bonuses. So that alone could take, not that everyone thinks of silver as money, but enough participants in the silver market do think so. That's the margin. That's what will take it higher. And it could take it to that 16-to-1 ratio. It could take it to 10-to-1. It could take it to 1-to-1. But before we get to there, I want to see it get back below 70-to-1. I want to see it get to 50-to-1, which is where it did recently in January of this year, and see what happens once we achieve that gold-silver ratio again.
David, is $100 silver psychologically important, economically important, or merely a round number that makes YouTube thumbnails happy?
Well, I've studied the commodities since the time I started trading them. And round numbers are important in all of these in all the commodity markets. So 100 is definitely, it's triple digit. It sounds impressive. It is impressive. I mean, I was the one that said, and I'm not sure I was the first, but I'm pretty certain I was one of the first, if not the first, to forecast $100 silver back in 2005. And I told my readers, my members, my paid subscribers, that once we hit $100 silver, I would, on my dime, throw a party for that monumental event. And I did. And it was in March 30th, I believe, of this year in Las Vegas. And I had almost 100 people come and celebrate the fact we'd hit triple-digit silver. I do believe we're going back there. I don't think as soon as many think it will. I think it's going to take some time. But the ultimate high, I don't believe, is in either metal, especially gold, from the fact that it hasn't made up for that potential $20,000 price. Now, whether or not it'll hit that price or not, let's get to 10,000 first. Let's get to 8,000. Nonetheless, that is the theoretical price. And I want to harp on that just a moment longer, because if you look at the base money supply versus the amount of gold in 1980, to have a 100% gold cover ratio, in other words, you could actually go back on a gold standard, you needed $400 gold. Yet, January 21st, 1980, we hit 850, which gave you a 2-time cover ratio for gold to go back into the monetary system. Obviously, it did not, but in theory, you could have, which suggests in a very hot market, you could exceed the theoretical value of gold in the paper price to go back to a gold standard, which again would be about 20,000. Now, you can have people, such as Jim Rickards, which I respect greatly. You don't need 100% coverage. You can use 40%. I don't really disagree with that. The thing about gold is it's a policeman on the currency. It's there so you can't cheat the system. Yet, all gold standards have been cheated upon. And why is that? Because the human element still exists. So when we went into Bretton Woods and had a dollar cover backed by gold at $35 per ounce, which was a steady eddy, the U.S. abused that privilege and started printing more dollars than there was gold to back it up. That's a short story of monetary history on a gold standard. It's happened every time. So it's not gold's fault. It's not that gold doesn't work. It's not a gold standard's bad. It's that the human nature is not, let's say, having the integrity that we would all like, that gold by itself would have. If you had a gold coin standard and you had nothing that circulated but gold, you really couldn't cheat the system very easily.
Well, David, Secretary Bessent was recently filmed walking through, I think, Fort Knox, saying basically, trust me, bro, all the gold is here. We're all like, sure it is. Yeah, and even if it is there, it's probably owned by someone else or leased to 50 other people.
It's swapped, it's leased. And the thing I want to harp on, Mike, I know you let me have the floor. Most of that gold is not LBMA qualified or COMEX qualified. It's coin melt. So it would have to be re-refined to even put back into the system.
Right. Okay, let me ask you about international finance here, but I just want a reminder for our audience that the reason we're getting into such technical details here is because the theme of the show is decentralized living and getting out of the centralized currency, the fiat currency banking system. We believe is a critical pillar of survival, your financial survival. It's not possible, in my view, without metals playing some role. So I just want to remind everybody of that. That's why we're talking about all of this. That's why this matters. And that's why so many people in our audience are stacking gold and silver. But here we go. The fiat currencies of the world are mostly all collapsing at some pace, even though people will look at the dollar and they will say, well, the dollar is getting stronger versus the yen. And I'm like, well, look at the yen. I mean, the yen's collapsing faster, but the dollar is still collapsing versus groceries. So you're comparing dollars to yen instead of dollars to gasoline or groceries or health insurance. You got the wrong chart, dude. You need to look at the fact that dollars are buying less and less and less. The yen is collapsing, though, rapidly, which is causing, clearly Japan's going to have to eventually panic unload treasuries. We just saw the 30-year treasury rate go over 5.2. And I'm thinking the 10 years next, you know what I mean? We're all watching this. The Fed decided to keep the interest rates unchanged for the moment, which sent shockwaves. I mean, David, this all matters. Japan matters. China matters. What's happening with the wars matters. This is a complex situation, but it's not looking good for the dollar. That's for sure. What are your comments?
Well, I'll just reframe what you said. I think that's critical. It's not, everyone says how, it's the best shirt in the hamper and all that stuff. I agree with that. But it's why is the dollar stronger than all these other currencies? The answer is they're printing faster than we are. But they're all going down, down, down relative to a concert, be it a bag of groceries, a gallon of gas, an ounce of silver, or what have you. So that's the key point. So what does it mean? It means that the acceleration phase is what we're starting to hit now, which means you've got to run faster just to stay in place, which means you're going to see more and more currency creation to pay the interest on the debt, all countries, and you're going to see more and more disengagement into that system, which means other nation states such as Japan offing the dollar, China offing the dollar, which means basically the treasury or the debt markets, T-bonds and T-bills and T-notes. So they do not have the appetite to take on America's debt. And so to take over that principle, they need to take on a higher interest rate, which will get these people to perhaps come back and take on the risk. But there isn't a high enough interest rate commensurate with the true inflation rate to make it worth your while. People always say, well, higher interest rates are going to pound down the gold market. That's true if and only if the interest rate is substantially greater than the true, not the government statistic, the true inflation rate, which is roughly 9%. So to make it worth your while to hold a long-term T-bond, T-note, T-bill, you'd have to look at that 9% and sweeten it by, I'd say, at least 3%. So you're getting a true 3% return on your money, which would put you at 12%.
Wow.
If you put 12% on the debt markets right now, it would definitely collapse the economy because you could not pay the interest on the national debt at a 12% yield.
I mean, I'm even thinking we're in trouble if the 10-year hits 5%.
Could be.
I mean,
well, that's the point. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mike, but that's the point. There is a place, and no one knows the exact number. It's certainly not 12. I don't think we'd ever get there. Some argue with me, and we don't know yet for certain. I'll say that. But it could be 6, 7, 8. I don't know. Could it go to 12? Possibly. I don't see how it could, but there are others, I say, that will argue with me and say, no, it could go back that high. You would just devastate the bond market because bond prices go down substantially as interest rates go higher, which is highly deflationary, which is a way out of this mess that we have because you would take so much money out of the system on a future value of money because interest rates are so high, we would all be basically back into a Great Depression type of thing.
A quick follow-up, sorry to interrupt, but what you just said makes sense. But think about the fact that in the U.S., almost all of the current, action and valuation increase in the stock market is coming from semiconductors, AI, data centers, almost all of which are running on liquid debt. I mean, it's not revenue that's sustaining their business models. The customer revenue is a single-digit % of the amount of inflow of borrowing, which is based on cheap rates. And rates go 1 point higher, 2 points, 3 points, God forbid, 9%. All of that ends. I mean, the data center bubble, tulip mania, tulips falling from the sky, at that point, right? And then, where's the economy? Because so much of the U.S. economy is just, sorry to use language, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit based on the bubbles. It's tulip mania semiconductor version. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. The whole system is a lie. You could create something for nothing. And the currency system is based on creating, currency with the press of a button on a computer from the private corporation called the Federal Reserve. And the government, the U.S. government, borrows money from that private corporation. And I really get a little bit ticked when people say, well, we owe it to ourselves. Yes, if you buy a T-bill from the government is the one that has to pay you back. But where did it start from? It started from the Federal Reserve. So ultimately, we owe it to the Federal Reserve.
Right.
We don't necessarily owe it to ourselves if you think about it.
An international banking cartel. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, let's. We are decentralized TV, so let's get practical here and let's talk self-custody.
Love it.
The first rule of precious metals is don't tell everyone you own precious metals. And the second rule is please do not post your monster box on Facebook. David, what does genuine self-custody actually look like in 2026? And what mistakes are most people making while believing that they are decentralized with their silver investments or precious metals?
Well, Todd, you hit it already. First of all, as it's said over and over, but could bear repeating, if you can't touch it, you don't own it. The second thing I would say is my predecessor, might call him Silver Guru 1, was named Jerome Smith. He wrote several books on silver profits in the 70s, which purportedly was what the Hunts read that got them interested in silver market. I can't prove that to be true. Silver profits in the 80s, what's behind the new boom in silver, the coming currency collapse, and on and on. He wrote a booklet called The Ownership Theory of Money. And I think that needs to come back to the fore. We actually do it subconsciously with the gold and silver, what I call the honest money movement. And that is you have to touch it to own it. And it's ownership of money, because when you put your payday check into the bank for safekeeping and convenience and able to use a debit card or credit or a checking account or what have you, once you do that, you are an unsecured creditor and the bank owns that money. That's legally the case. But when you own the money, guess what? You own it. The only way to really have the ownership theory of money work for you is to own something outside of the banking system, which means for monetary purposes, gold, silver, you could say copper perhaps, but those three metals or two metals are the only thing on a monetary basis that works outside of the system, and the only thing you can truly own in and of yourself with no counterparty risk. That is critical only when it becomes critical, because most people don't think of it until it's too late. I mean, as in a thought experiment, let's say that there is a weather event and the banks are closed for 1 week. Those people that have, let's say, constitutional silver are probably able to do something with their neighbor or maybe a local grocer, probably not a corporate grocery store, and make a transaction. Whereas if you're dependent on the electronic payment system only, which is about 99% of the population, you're in deep trouble for that time frame.
Do you ever think there will be a day when we'll be able to purchase goods at retail with precious metals? David?
Well, I do it all the time, and I do it only at the farmers markets. It's got to be really free, independent, free market thinkers. I mean, we have several farmers markets in the Great Northwest, and they're not a daily thing. They're usually a weekend or every other weekend type of thing, and not all year either. It's during spring and summer. But I almost always go up, especially in someone new, and I say, "Do you want money, or would you like a private script?" And they say, "What do you
I love
want?"
that.
I show them a $20 bill and say, "Well, I'll take that." I go, "Wait a minute, you can have it. I'll pay you that, but there's a piece of money. This is a private corporation." And I go into my spiel, and I'd say 80% of the time they'll take the silver over the fiat.
I love that.
You know, how cool is that from the farmer's perspective? Because they're turning sunlight into silver through photosynthesis of garden plants. It's like, wait a minute, I got the sunlight for free. Mother Nature grew the food for free, and then you'll give me silver for that? Heck yes, right?
Yeah.
It's an obvious answer. I was just thinking too, different levels, different strata of wealth related to the table of elements. So I think people who are wealthy stack gold and silver. People who are desperate steal copper wire. People who are impoverished sleep around scraps of aluminum foil. So, that's the three tiers of wealth versus poverty with different elements. Not saying that aluminum foil doesn't have its uses. For example, folding origami tinfoil hats or aluminum foil hats to protect you from the alien signals or whatever's happening. So that's all good, but I guess that would require tin technically. Nevertheless, the table of elements, I think, that's immutable. That's the laws of physics. All this stuff created by man, look here, right? I have the stack here. Here's, all these, this is from a previous interview, all these currencies, right? All this stuff created by men with pictures of men's stupid faces on these men who lied to their people. And they said this was money. It was never money. It's all collapsed. I'm a trillionaire in Zimbabwe. That never lasts. It's not real, is it?
No, it's not. And, that lesson is a great lesson that will be learned again.
Yeah.
Probably in my lifetime, although I'm getting up there in age. But this is something that goes a few generations and then the lesson is learned again. Mm-hmm. And it seems as time goes on, humans are, present and don't think about the past, don't really learn history. And when that lesson happens again, it carries on for a couple of generations. Everyone will know the difference between currency and money at some point. And I think we're getting very close to that now. But I have to be fair and critical of myself. I was an early adopter to the honest money story in the 1970s. And some of my betters back then, men I had, looked up to and learned from, thought it was, imminent in 1980. I mean, Jerome Smith, that I mentioned a moment ago, he thought we would go into maybe the mid-90s before this thing would come apart. One of my favorite books is down in the basement, and they're not all that I own book-wise. They're not in this room. There's plenty more below me, but Bankruptcy 1999, where the Grace Commission did a study for the Reagan administration on how to get out of the debt crisis. Well, that was 27 years ago, and we're still here.
Yeah, valid point. We're almost out of time, so Todd, you get the last question. And
Great.
Then we'll ask David to mention his site and what people can get from him there. But go ahead.
Thank you. 20 years from now, David, what do you think history will say was the biggest misunderstanding investors had about silver during the 2020s?
Wow. Off the top of my head, I would say value and price. I think there'll be an understanding of the value that silver brings to a modern technological age. We couldn't have communications with cell phones. We couldn't have flat screen TVs or monitors. We couldn't have microwave ovens without membrane switches. So I think the value of what silver does for the humanity to better their lives will be understood. And I think the price will at some point become commensurate with the value that silver provides for modern society. Perhaps, as I said earlier, it will actually overshoot. There is that possibility because it's such a small market. And when they feed on each other, like we saw in the last 3 months of last year, early January of this year, where there's not only buying of silver for monetary reasons, but industry can't live without it. And you see those two forces interacting in a synergistic way. We could see silver come back to, as I said earlier, a gold silver ratio below 30. I expect that to happen as a minimum this time. And we could see it go, beyond that. So time will tell. I do think the silver story and the gold story are not over. Remember that the banks don't like silver for a reason, because if they had to put silver into the monetary system, the price would have to explode relative to the gold price. In other words, the gold-silver ratio would have to be commensurate with the value of silver relative to gold that it has held historically, which would be a minimum of 15-1 or somewhere around that.
Wow. That kind of move would be, just extraordinary.
Yeah.
All right, David. Your website, themorganreport.com, offers a number of resources, and tell people what they can get there or access.
Yeah. Step one is just get on the free report. Mostly it's the interviews I do. I'm going to start sending something out on Sunday and answer a question from the audience. And then step two is 2 documentaries, one that I'm in called The Four Horsemen Film, which is an overview of what we've been discussing. It's the end of the Age of Empire, why it's cyclical, why it's happened throughout history again and again. It's really nothing to really fear. It's something that is part of the human experience and what part of the cycle we're in. And the other film is called Silver Sunrise. It's free. I produced most of it. It's at silversunrise.tv. It's more of a spiritual look at money, and why does money have so much control over our lives and what we can do about it, because they're in alignment with our, I'll say, spiritual side that is really more inherently purposeful in how we live our lives from day one till we end versus how much money we accumulate. So it asks that question. And lastly, step 3 is if you want to consult with me on a one-on-one basis, that's available, or you want to get involved with the 2 services that we provide on the monetary aspects of not only precious metals, but the resource sector at large. And we offer a very generous try first, buy first, but you get 60 days to try out the report. If you don't like it, you'll get your money back. And that's probably the best money back guarantee in the entire industry. Most are supposed to give you a 30-day trial. Most don't. Their terms and conditions say you buy it, you're locked in for a year, and I've got your money and you get my report. I'm opposite of that. I say, here's the report, pay for it. I can't give you something for free, but once you pay for it, if you decide 30 days, 45, up to 60 days later, it's not for me, I'll refund the money.
Excellent.
Wow, very, very cool. All right, so that's themorganreport.com, and I just want to add one more kind of bizarre comment in this, which is, you've heard the rumor, and I understand, David, that we don't know exactly how much this is, but we've both heard the rumor that there's a monster box of silver in every Tomahawk missile, right? You've heard that rumor before, right?
Yeah, I've looked into that.
Maybe it's not. Yeah, it's probably not that much, right? But there's some amount, and other aircraft that are being shot down over the Middle East or different missiles or this and that. I was just thinking, every time the U.S. bombs Iran, they're actually sending them like millions of dollars of silver. Like somebody's going to mine Iran. Like the southern coast of Iran is going to be a silver mine. You know what I mean?
That's right. Get your metal detectors ready, folks. Get on out there.
It's like once the war's over, everybody's going to be out there with their metal detectors. I'm rich, bitch. Thank you, America. It's like, wow, we are sending them so much wealth. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I have these weird thoughts sometimes about what's going on in the world. But thank you.
Don't ever change, Mike.
Don't change. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
We need humor more than ever these days, Mike.
Yeah.
We can't laugh at ourselves in our situation because it is rather dire, but we got to have some levity.
It is dire, but people tell me like I'm too black-pilled. I'm like, well, half glass full, that incoming missile has precious metals in it, so you're good. Just don't be where it hits, and then you can collect it. Anyway, yeah, what a bizarre world. Anyway, thank you, David, so much for your time today. It's always an honor to have you on. We appreciate your wisdom, and we encourage people to check out your website, themorganreport.com, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break with the after party. That's Todd and I discussing this in a little more detail and going off the rails. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. If you'd like to help support us, check out all of the affiliate deals I put together for you at rangerdeals.com. And if you go there, you'll see I've done due diligence on all of these affiliates. There's really not that many, but we have partners like Battalion Metals, co-founded by Tucker Carlson, Nessa's Organic CBDA Hemp Extract, Above Phone Models that are de-Googled phones, Red Life, here's the Peptide Company, Limitless, PetMectin, and so much more, including the Satellite Phone Store, VP.net. And for almost all of these, you can use discount code RANGER here, or sometimes it's something else like Brighteon50, but normally the discount code is RANGER, which will save you something on these deals. Now, we do earn a little bit off of these affiliate deals, but it's no additional cost to you, and it helps support our platform and our work for humanity, including our AI projects that offer free open source knowledge in multiple languages. You can check those out at brightlearn.ai and brightanswers.ai. So thank you for supporting us. Check out rangerdeals.com anytime you want to save money on really high-end products and solutions that I personally endorse. I'm Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the after party. And of course, Todd, I really love David Morgan. He's got such wisdom. People would be very smart to listen to him on this. And he's not a FOMO guy. He's not a hypester. He's just common sense, down to earth. Follow what he says, and you're going to do well in asset protection, I would say.
Yeah, and I like what he said. You may not become rich within silver, but you're going to hold I loved his comparison of 25-cent gas. Right?
Yeah, right.
And now it's $10, right? And gas is $5. And so that's just pragmatic. And so it's not a when-moon decision to invest in silver, right?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that wisdom. And, ever since interviewing Andy Schectman back in December of 25, that's when I finally got serious about, precious metals and such. And
oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, before that, it was like stock market and just everything, and just raising a family, right? trying to get out of debt and making that decision. But then all of a sudden, I'm like seeing the wisdom, and so I really am very impressed with people who've been stacking for years, if not decades.
Yeah.
Mike,
I'm a silver stacker for sure. And I just methodically stack, and I avoid risk, I avoid leverage, but mostly because I don't have the time to monitor it. I don't want to lose sleep because I didn't check what's the price. I don't want to put in automatic sell orders and get stopped out, this and that. I'm like, I want to focus on doing this, interviews and content. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I just have gold and silver stacked in a vault, I use Battalion Metals vaulting, as you know. Tucker Carlson is the co-founder, right? We interviewed Tucker. I don't worry about it. That's the thing. I don't even have to think. I don't have to worry. I don't have to monitor. I don't have to pay taxes on the gains because I'm never selling it,
Right. I was doing a consultation regarding the UNA with someone this week, and we were talking about how a UNA, if you have a UNA, then you have a strategy to not pay capital gains taxes on your metals. But I said, what you can do for it is how I have wargamed how it should and will be done. But I admitted, I don't think I will ever experience that because
you're not going to sell for dollars.
I think my kids will probably enjoy that sport, one day when I pass, but I like self-custody of precious metals. And, I totally get what he says, that if you can't touch it, you don't own it. I mean, when I start to see any kind of, dollars increase in my bank account, I get really, really nervous. Yeah, because at any point in time, poof, it can be gone.
And, along with that, what I love about the UNA structure, which I'll I'll give you a chance to
Sure,
describe that
sure.
in more detail, is that it's a legal way to donate to a nonprofit entity that is not required to file. And within that structure, which is legally recognized by both the state of California and the IRS,
That's right.
you can, you could liquidate silver, gold, crypto, other property, et cetera, real estate, et cetera, within that structure. And the reason that's interesting to me is because, I'm doing a lot of solar projects right now.
Right.
And I'm going to buy an EV before the end of this year. And when I do, I'm not going to be paying any federal fuel tax.
Right.
That there's a significant tax per gallon that's put by the federal government on gasoline and diesel. Right now, I buy what's called red dye diesel for my ranch.
Okay.
And that's the diesel that I mostly store is red dye diesel. It's cheaper because it doesn't have the federal taxes on it, but that's what I use for my ranch equipment, skid steer, whatever, tractor. And because I'm not driving, down the highway with my tractor, so I don't have to pay the highway tax.
Yeah.
But I'm also, if you think about it, like even right now, I'm running some air conditioning from solar power. I'm not paying the federal government, like I'm not earning money, paying tax, taking the after-tax dollars, buying power from the power company to run an air conditioner. Instead, I'm bypassing all that bullshit and I'm just getting sunlight to run the air conditioner, and the government doesn't get a piece of that.
How beautiful.
Right.
And those of us who aren't yet doing that, Mike, the only thing that we can feel good about is that our investment in those taxes is going to the warheads, going to Iran for a future metal detector individual.
Right. Silver delivery services. Yeah.
Silver delivery services. Yes.
Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Pete Hegseth. Silver delivery. Yeah. But if we structure our lives correctly, like think about this, like you grow food in your garden.
Yes.
Same thing, right? Sunlight becomes food, sunlight and water, carbon dioxide, soil, all that becomes food. And then you get to consume the food. You don't buy it with after-tax money. The government doesn't tax it. Government doesn't even know it exists.
Right.
There's no tracking. There's no reporting. There's no inspections. There's no USDA telling you, you can't grow cucumbers. It's just like you bypass all the levels of bullshit when you collect solar energy or you grow your own food or you grow your own medicine or you have a UNA, et cetera. I mean, these are real solutions for decentralized living.
They are, but there's one component to it that I think is very, very important to discuss. And this is why 3 years ago, I think it was after our interview with Jim Gell, who was our fourth interview, I knew that I was going to install a food forest. And guess what? Because I had my UNA for 5 years prior, over the years, I was able to keep a lot more of what I earned due to the tax advantages. And so I literally paid for the food forest with the cash that I had saved over the years, right? Because it didn't go to Pete Hegseth, right?
Right.
And his delivery system.
The silver delivery.
Yes. So and I don't know if you remember, Mike, but when I reached out to you and I said, hey, look, I can't imagine helping people decentralize their lives in any more meaningful way than to help them keep more of what they earn, protect what they have, and decrease their personal liability. And that is, of course, when you went and did your due diligence before ever allowing me to speak about it. But I bring all of that up because decentralized living does require an upfront expense.
You are right.
Was free.
Yep.
Right. Your panels aren't free and everything that's going into it. So I just kind of reverse engineer it and say, hey, if we can keep more of what we earn, what might people be able to do with that? And I think decentralize their lives is an obvious answer.
That's a really great point that you just mentioned. I was doing the math on this the other day. So like my air conditioner that I'm running off solar right now, it uses about 1,500 watts, right? So in 1 hour, that's 1.5 kilowatt hours. Okay. That hour of running that air conditioner from the local power company costs me what, 15 cents or something, you know?
Yeah.
Or 20 cents or whatever it is. Let's just say it's 20 cents. Or I could spend thousands of dollars on erecting a solar system with batteries and an inverter and everything that does that, and I save the 15 cents. But I chose to spend the thousands of dollars because, of course, I'm saving 15 cents every hour for 20 years to come.
Exactly. And you don't have anyone who has a kill switch.
Exactly. And if the grid goes down, I can still have air conditioning, which is going to make me very popular in Texas in the summer.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Can we come party with you? Yeah. Not probably the answer is no, because you use the wrong laundry detergent. So the answer is no. But if you have a clean lifestyle, yeah, come on over. You know, we could
right.
You know, enjoy the air conditioning. But it's about the cost of power sovereignty.
Right.
Right. That's what we're talking about here. So when you said self-custody earlier, self-custody is financial sovereignty.
Right.
Right. When you have the gold or silver or crypto in your own wallet that you control,
that's right.
That is financial sovereignty.
Yep.
That has value beyond the nominal value of whatever you're holding, right?
And you know, at bottom of that value is what? Peace of mind. That's what we're investing in, right? I mean, when you change your calculus to what is peace of mind worth to me and my family, wow, Mike, it's like decentralized living is peace of mind. Welcome to freedom.
Yeah, totally. It's about being able to have control when the government decides that they're going to start rationing things. Like maybe they'll start rationing diesel fuel later this year, or they'll start having rolling blackouts.
Yep.
Because the data centers are taking too much power. Did you know that in the state of Texas, right now, there are so many requests for data centers to connect to the Texas grid that if all of them were connected, the state of Texas would have to triple its electrical output by the year, I think, 2032. Triple.
What a cancer. I'm serious.
I mean,
it's like, how many recipes do people need to query through AI?
Yeah, you know, that's not, it's a surveillance grid, it's an AI superintelligence research project, et cetera. But I'm looking at this as a Texan and I'm like, there is no way that my representatives who run the state of Texas are going to favor the people over the data centers. Not in the long run.
No.
Because all that money flashing in their faces from the wealthy tech giants and everything, they're going to say yes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, there's another aspect of that too. I was walking my dogs this morning and I walked further than I usually do. And I got out to where in our neighborhoods, you know, they create these man-made lakes when they build up these communities, right?
Yeah.
And historically, in my experience, they have all been full and beautiful. You know, I mean, they aren't lakefront property, but they sure do sell the homes like they're lakefront property, right?
Right.
But I'm sitting here and yeah, we've been in somewhat of a drought for sure, but they are bone dry. So then I started thinking about, man, this is before these data centers start sucking our water away from us, right? I mean, this is a big deal. What is humanity going to do with all of these big warehouses full of, you know, GPU when you have no water? And I start thinking about the wildlife. And sure, we have alligators in Florida. But you know what? It kind of made me sad this morning thinking, where the hell do the alligators go? Because all those lakes are gone.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that's where the gators hide so they can eat your neighbor's poodle when they take the poodles out for walking.
Well, that's doing us a service, Mike.
Yeah, okay, maybe so. Yeah, we're joking. So anyway, let me bring up my575e.com, which is your website, and
Sure.
just go ahead and take a minute and describe that, because we're almost wrapping up the show here.
Yeah, it's relevant because we had David Morgan on, and I will just tell you that if you acquire precious metals, whether you vault them or you self-custody, there is a very strategic place in your financial future to be able to have a UNA. Just trust me on that. If you are a W-2 earner or a 1099 earner, if you operate an LLC or multiple LLCs, if you own property, if you trade in crypto, precious metals, if you have children, all of these should at least pique your curiosity to learn more. And I try to make it easy by, if you go to my575e.com and you hit Let's Go, then you'll put in your name and email, and then you will have access to a 90-minute video interview that I have done with the subject matter expert in the United States. That's Dennis Gray. And I have a downloadable PDF for you to review the 32 positive attributes of acquiring and operating a UNA. And then here's the good thing. If you have any questions, right down below that, you can just book a private consultation with me. And I've helped over 700 people acquire these in the last 3 years, as you know, Mike. And mostly it's through the consultations because people really want to share what their operating realities are, and we can discern whether it's right for you. And I do talk people out of these, by the way. If I don't sense that there is a good use case, this has just always been my form of activism, not form of income, Mike. So I want to help people. I encourage people to get smarter and learn more, and keep more of what you earn, protect what you have, and decrease your personal liability.
That's funny what you said. I talk people out of these, and that's true. Sometimes you tell people that it's not appropriate, but I was just thinking in my mind would be a funny conversation, like somebody calls you up like, I want a UNA, and your reply is, no, you don't. And they're like, yes, I do. You're like, nope, sorry. But it's not appropriate for everybody. And by consulting with you, then people can help determine where it's useful.
And I learned it was not appropriate for a wonderful woman named Joan. And I messaged you about this, that I just gotten off with her, 93 years old. And she had her you-know-what together. Her husband, when he passed, set her up with this trust. Everything was perfect, right? I didn't want to upset that apple cart, and I told her, I think you have done a great job, and we proceeded to talk about you. And she wanted me to share with you that you have had such an impact on her life. I have my notes here, Mike.
Wow.
And she says, I listen to Mike Adams daily for 15 years. I've not been on any drugs. I take supplements. I order from Mike. I deal with holistic doctors. And she later told me that she escaped Washington, D.C. She walked away with it because she started to see the evil. She worked for both the House of Representatives and in the Senate. She is the sharpest 93-year-old woman I have ever met.
Wow.
And she just wanted me to share with you how much you've had an impact on her life, Mike.
Oh, what a testimonial. That's amazing. Well, thank you, Joan. It's Joan, right?
Yeah, Joan Hartzell.
Okay, well,
She
thank you,
is
Joan.
wonderful.
And isn't it great that we help people escape Washington, D.C. also?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that if you follow nutrition, you can live well into your 90s and be healthy and be vibrant and have good cognitive function,
Yes.
etc. Yeah.
Yes.
Nutrition works, you know?
Yeah. So I just have one retail suggestion for you. You know, you've already done the knife escaping LA. Maybe you need to do another one escaping Washington, D.C.
Escape from D.C.
Escape from D.C.
I think we're all trying to escape from D.C. right now.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
I'm working on another course right now that's about genetic survival in the age of binary weapons of spike proteins and nuclear fallout.
Wow.
And I'm 5 hours into that, and it's the best
That's
course.
cool.
Yeah, it's a 12-hour course. I think it'll be 12. But I've recorded 5 chapters, and man, it's the best thing I've ever done. I can't wait to put it out. We'll announce that. It'll be out in a couple of weeks on brightu.com, so it'll be free.
Awesome.
And it's mind-blowing. I have learned more about genetic DNA repair in researching to teach this course than I ever thought I would know.
Wow.
And it's crazy. It's like I didn't fully realize the miracle of the human nanotech that we are born with that keeps us alive. And without it, like all our cells would have fallen apart long ago.
Crazy. I can't wait.
It's going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be something. All right. Well, last thing, if you want to support us, folks, also check out rangerdeals.com. That's my site where I have affiliate links to the different providers. There's Battalion Metals there. If you want gold and silver, that's one place to check out. High integrity. Here's Nessa's Hemp. Here's Above Phone. And by the way, that's great because Hakeem is in the parking lot right now.
Our next interview.
Yeah, our next interview. He's going to come in. So let's wrap this up so we can get Hakeem in the chair. And then we've got, VP Net. We've got satellite phones from the satellite phone store, the Limitless Peptides that you and I both use intranasally. And also they have oral supplements, Petmectin, Red Life, etc. Anyway, that's all at rangerdeals.com. So, and then finally, you can find all the other episodes of this show at decentralize.tv. So,
and by the way, everybody should know at rangerdeals.com, you should have a little tag that says kid tested, Mike approved.
Kid tested.
Taking that list unless you have approved it personally.
Well, maybe we could just go back and just say Mikey likes it. Because some people remember that
Mikey.
cereal commercial in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Mikey likes it. It must be good. Yeah.
Hey, Mikey. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny. Imagine being a kid in that time named Mike, and
All I
everybody knew
know
that commercial.
Is there's somebody out there who just has more time on their hands than they should, who's going to make a likeness of you in that commercial with AI.
With AI.
Yeah.
Yep.
Having all of these congressmen saying, hey, Mikey, Mikey likes it. Oh, goodness.
But I would not recommend that cereal because of its ingredients. But
I know,
nevertheless, yeah. In any case, it's been a great show. And Todd, thank you for joining us. And we're going to have another, we're about to interview Hakeem from Above Phone. So that show's coming up as well. So thank you all for watching, and check out all the other episodes at decentralize.tv. Take care.
Cheers.